June 11th, 2024 will come to order. Please join me in silencing your cell phones. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Here.
Commissioner Hartman?
Here.
Commissioner Martin?
Here.
Vice Mayor Preen?
Here.
Mayor Cleveland?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. And now Police Chaplain Bill Kitchen will deliver the invocation. Please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, I think in your word you told us to be thankful for everything. The rain, yes, even the heat. And right here today, I'm thank you, Father, for the people who are up here on this dais, taking their time out to get it right for our community, and for the people who have attended tonight to get it right for our community, for each other, and for you. So thank you, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And now, high school state female pole vaulting champion, McKenna Estes of New Smyrna High, will deliver and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, McKenna. Please be seated, everyone. There'll be more from McKenna right about now. At this time, I'd like to invite McKenna Estes back to the podium, New Smyrna High School pole vaulting champion, for a recognition and a proclamation from the City Commission and me. The City of New Smyrna Beach, a proclamation recognizing New Smyrna Beach High School track and field pole vaulting champion. Whereas there are 4 major jumping events included in track and field in the athletic category. These events are high jump, long jump, pole vaulting, and the triple jump. And whereas pole vaulting is a track and field sport which a trained athlete uses a pole to jump a bar, demonstrating physical attributes such as agility, technical skill, and speed. And whereas New Smyrna Beach High School student athlete McKenna Estes became the first female track and field champion in nearly 4 decades, taking first place with a mark of 11 feet, 9.75 inches in the pole vaulting category on Friday, 17th of May, 2024, at the State Track and Field Championship held at the UNF Hodges Stadium in Jacksonville, Florida. And whereas the City of New Smyrna Beach is very proud of the successes of McKenna and the 2024 New Smyrna Beach High School track and field team. Now therefore I, Freddie Cleveland, the mayor of the City of New Smyrna Beach, do hereby recognize New Smyrna Beach High School women's track and field pole vault champion, McKenna Estes, for her determination and the efforts that have awarded such distinguished honors in ranking for the 2024 season. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 11th day of June, 2024. I've signed it as your mayor. Congratulations. Mr. and Mr. Estes, thank you for raising such an amazing daughter, and she's on to the University of Alabama to do her sport and major in public health on her way to dental school. Congratulations, Mom and Dad. Let's get a picture with you as well. going to continue the proclamation to the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and we'll do that another time. This time, I would like to invite Southeast Volusia Audubon Society Chair Joyce Rydell to the podium to present an award. So, ma'am, let's give you a microphone.
Oh, I can speak.
Okay?
Yeah,
Perfect.
sure.
That's one right there.
All right. I'm with Southeast Volusia Audubon, and I am joined tonight by my Audubon members and friends, and we're here to present an award. This is our annual 2024 Community Partners Award, and we are presenting this to the city of New Smyrna Beach, and specifically to two people within the city of New Smyrna Beach. That is David Ray, the Director of Maintenance Operations, and to John Haverly, the Supervisor of City Parks, who couldn't be with us tonight. But these two gentlemen have enabled us to meet our objectives and exceed them in something that you don't often think of us doing. When you think of Audubon, what do you think of? Birds. But we're also conservationists, and without the conservation, we wouldn't have birds. And New Smyrna Beach has been instrumental in helping us create parks throughout the city, one at Myrtle, one at Babe James, and recently a microforest at Turnbull Street Park, one of the first in Volusia County that I know of. But all of these native habitats are protecting our birds, providing them food, shelter, and of course other wildlife, and making our city the beautiful place that it is. And we couldn't have done this without the support of the city, and specifically David, you and John. So thank you very much.
Congrats, Dave. Thank you very much. Well done to the Audubon Society. Thank you for gracing us with your presence tonight. You make a difference in our community, and you might know that your values are our city's values, so it goes together nicely. Thank you very much. And to the superstar David Ray and his team for continuing to keep that tradition alive. At this time, I'd like the Economic Development Task Force Chair, John Joquin, to come up and outline his report. John, thanks for being here.
Chris, you going to join me? Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to provide an update to the City Commission regarding the activities of the Economic Development Task Force. And I'm actually following Fred, who I see uses something like this because I think he's a great speaker. So I'm going to take a few notes here. Well, first of all, I share in the honor of serving our wonderful city and community with Charlie Tagman, David McKenna, Jess Romero, who serves as our vice chair, and Diana Poole. And some of them are here today, so thank you for attending. I want to thank them for their service to our community and give special recognition to this man, Chris Edwards here, who is the Director of Economic Development in the city. And without his efforts, support, and leadership, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you, Chris. And is it spacebar? I'm going to let you. I'm in the technology industry, but PowerPoint still throws me, you know. Our mission at a high level is the same as yours, to make the city a better place to live, work, and raise our families by helping diversify and grow our local economy, our local and regional economy, helping create higher wage jobs for our residents and provide future career opportunities so our children can stay in our community as they enter adulthood in the working world. started in here. So to further these goals, for the short, medium, and long term, we have developed the following priorities, and you'll see those up on the screen. One is to diversify the tax base, to take the pressure off of property owners and residents that bear a higher percentage of the cost of our city government and services over other regional jurisdictions, and to diversify the mix of employers beyond the tourism and leisure industry we're so proud of here, and their supporting industries into technology, advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and supporting ecosystems for those fields. This means attracting new companies to locate in the appropriate areas of the city with a focus to the west of us in what will become the Deering Park Innovation Center and that development. It also means leveraging our airport and nearby assets and rehabilitating legacy buildings and properties along US 1. So number two, our goal is to enhance our public infrastructure to provide easier access, high-speed communications, resilient systems, and upgraded facilities. The Deering Park development will offer an opportunity to start from scratch, but there are many great opportunities here in our community today. And you'll hear a little bit more about that from Chris in a second. Thank you, Chris. So number three is ensuring a quality labor pool. New Smyrna Beach has considerable opportunity here to upskill and reskill existing workers, those who seek higher paying opportunities, those in or near retirement looking to supplement their incomes in our inflationary times, veterans who served our country who are looking for post-military careers, and for our children and young adults at the beginning of theirs. So we are partnering with local and regional organizations to explore in-school, online, and hybrid options in high-wage industries like aerospace, artificial intelligence, automation, software development, and healthcare. Some of the things that are naturally in our area and represent the most opportunity for our citizens. But we must better leverage our existing regional educational resources at the same time think anew. Without a quality labor force, we're not going to be able to attract new businesses that meet our efforts and will fail our children. So, next one. Thank you. So to aid in each of these priorities, we have assigned certain task force members who are working in areas that aid, our greater mission. I lead our workforce development effort, focusing on building high-quality labor force. And as part of this, I'm also leading an effort that's in the initial thinking stages and development for a potential technology industry here in our region based in the Deering Park area. The concept, codenamed Space Coast Innovation Center, borrows from previous and successful work I've done as the leader of IBM in the nation's capital around building a quantum computing ecosystem and industry. And I think a lot of that could apply here. Now, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, but it is something that offers the opportunity for us as a community to leverage, the Space Coast, which we're called the Space Coast. So it makes a lot of sense. And those will bring high-paying jobs and give us a regional focus. The Space Coast Innovation Center will look to provide necessary supporting resources to build and attract companies to our region to leverage our natural resources in this aerospace industry. This includes workforce development, angel and venture funding, incubation for small and emerging companies, mentoring, and helping open markets for them nationally and globally for their products and services. As noted, this won't happen overnight, but the great news is, at least, and it is surprising to me, is there are a number of technology executives here in our city who are interested in helping us. So this will be evolving over the next months and year, and we'll come back to you with a more substantial plan. I just wanted to highlight it tonight. So if there's anybody in the audience behind me or online that's interested in participating in this, please reach out to me. Thank you. So next, Jess Romero is leading our infrastructure and planning segment, driving, among other things, a potential public-private partnership to bring a new pickleball facility to the city. Yeah, with the growing popularity of this sport and considerable local interest, this will be a welcome amenity to our community should it be approved and implemented. Charlie Tagman's efforts are focused on developing our commercial real estate market and growth opportunities here. David McKenna leads our marketing efforts to attract and retain businesses in New Smyrna. And our newest member, Diana Poole, brings a data analytics lens to the real estate site selection and location analysis to attract new businesses. So as you can see, we are an enthusiastic group passionately engaged in achieving our mission to help our community in this great city. Thank you for the time. I want to turn it over to Chris to finish out the rest of our presentation. Thanks, Chris. Do you need my help?
Got it. Thank you, John. And let me say, Mayor and Commissioners, you've assembled an impressive team of stakeholders for this Economic Development Task Force. They are a phenomenal group to work with, and I've had the privilege and pleasure of doing so. So I echo what John said earlier, just a fantastic, brilliant group of individuals who are passionate about their strategic economic growth of this city and ensuring that we have a more robust and stronger economic trajectory. And my role at this point is just to briefly highlight the blueprints for things that we are doing to date that are impacting and helping to shape the city's economic trajectory in a stronger way. The first thing on the list, of course, is the Economic Development Tax Abatement Program. And of course, that will go out to the voters for referendum in November. But the task force is focused and ready to provide good public education materials for the voter base to understand this program fully, even having comparable examples of other communities and what their criteria looks like as well. So I know that this will be a significant program, and as I alluded to last month, will be another tool for the city to thoroughly compete against other communities as we continue to grow in the city of New Smyrna Beach. EDTF also in the spring this year, along with other economic development partners, did provide a letter of support for the New Smyrna Beach utilities regarding a grid resilience program that they pursued. And so this was a unique program opportunity for the EDTF to support that will help with the public infrastructure piece of the priorities that the EDTF is working on. And of course, the photogenic John was featured in our community showcase video tour that is on the homepage that talks about the goals of economic development for the city. I think he did a fantastic job. He has a career in Hollywood, I think. Basically, this is an opportunity to kind of showcase the different aspects of New Smyrna Beach, getting people to get beyond the mindset of it's just a beach, but we're more than a beach. We're a place where you can do business. And that's a continued theme I think we're going to have to see, and we will see as projects take shape. But we are cognizant of where we are. Based on the latest data, we see the taxable value going up, but there is obviously a need, which we're drastically doing, and I think in a positive and strategic way, with increased new commercial light industrial development activity as well as commercial redevelopment. We need to increase those parcel counts, and I'm going to show you some evidence of where we're making progress on that. So here's as you get the monthly development activity reports. Of the 33 projects listed on here, about 21 are commercial-based businesses. And I'm not counting multifamily when I say this. And then also for June, in our just under review projects, there's about 11 on there that you would consider or categorize as commercial business-based projects. And this is just an example of what recent redevelopment projects that we're starting to see, the 6,000 square foot warehouse that is right now under redevelopment and site work now. There's another project that was set, an old Mullinex Ford building that obviously is being transformed into more of an office warehouse type complex. And of course, we've had in the past few months 2 site visits hosted by Team Volusia to this property. So what it gives me a signal, an indicator as a professional, is that there is interest beyond what buildings have been traditionally used for. People are thinking differently. We had a couple ribbon cuttings where people were changing the use of the Bowman Center being another example of projects where people are thinking outside the box. And so with that, at some point, this task force will be very instrumental in helping to shape what those unique and new innovative uses can be within the city, and particularly along the US 1 corridor. Just highlighting, you just approved this, commissioners, last month, but this is another example of another component to the whole attracting business, retaining business, and giving people good, affordable workforce housing. So hopefully we're successful this round, but this is another example of that, which speaks to the strategic plan element that you have that says live where you work. And of course, we've continued over the time since the EDTF has been formed to continue to promote the concepts of Deering Park Innovation Center, as well as work with the property owner and their development team on a thorough and effective strategic communications and marketing plan. And we know the benefits to the city will certainly be very advantageous. And just highlighting here, just another successful workforce development component that John was speaking to earlier, really connecting people to new opportunities. We had about approximately 200 attendees that attended this event in April. We had about 40 businesses. We had companies who were outside of the area in De Leon Springs, as far as, I believe, Orlando. We had major manufacturers local here to the city, and also our largest employer, Advent Health, and many others that were there to participate in this event. We also attended a teen job fair to let kids know who were looking at potential jobs, ages 16 to 18. And so these partnerships are key with Volusia County Schools, with Southeast Volusia Manufacturing and Technology Coalition, introducing a population, a pipeline of students and young people to what opportunities are available. And you'd be surprised how many of them have no clue. And it's not because, the information is not there, it's just how you communicate it to them. And once they become aware of the many different opportunities, you can start to see a lot of impacts to these type workforce development programs. Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce, we participated in the Business Expo, and also we served as a panelist. We had Charlie show up and represent EDTF at the county last month. We had a great time talking with our fellow cities in the county, DeBerry and DeLand, about downtown development, which our downtown development has a bright future for now and Flagler. And then, of course, the Economic Development Summit that we'll be partnering with the Chamber of Commerce on Wednesday, June 19th. So that's all I have tonight, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Thank you, John. Any questions from any commissioner or comments? I had one about John and your specific task of stimulating the available workforce, younger workforce. Can you say some words about what it is you're doing? We've been passed by several corporations for not having an available workforce. Have you found some initiatives that work, and are you getting any traction?
Yes. So I've been in the role for probably about 6 months, and as part of this, I've been introducing myself to various stakeholders, the Chamber of Commerce, various schools, Embry-Riddle, and looking for things that we can have the most impact on right now that don't have someone already doing it, so we're not duplicating their efforts. So one of the things that we have identified is there isn't an awareness especially in our schools, of the opportunities that are out there for jobs in the high-tech field. So part of it is an awareness. We're working on in-classroom programs, mentoring. There's a number of people that I've met along my way here that are interested in mentoring kids, retirees from the tech industry. So, doing that, making them aware of job opportunities, mentoring and making accessible a lot of the training tools that are already out there. So for example, I used to work for IBM, I work for Ernst & Young now, and they offer a platform for skills development for appropriate age groups, so kids in high school that might want to learn something about technology, adults that are looking to upskill or reskill into a new career. So we're going to look to bring those to bear through some online system and through in-class, and just raise the awareness more broadly about the opportunity for people in our communities. So there you go.
Appreciate that. Stay at it. It's important. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, last I heard, the Daytona State campus across from the New Smyrna High School was really underutilized, and that there was sort of a chicken and egg routine where they couldn't get enough students to get a variety of training there, and they couldn't get a variety of training there because there weren't enough students. Does anybody know if that still is the impasse, or if there has been any movement?
I can speak to that, yes. Talking to the director of the campus there more regularly speaking, they've had some more continued engagement with New Smyrna High School. I believe there's also Burnside Tech is also, they're engaging more of them. So I believe their numbers are improving with that. I know that there are more programs that are in the pipeline that the college is considering for that
For
campus.
Daytona State?
Yes,
I mean,
for the New Smyrna Beach campus.
Thank you, yeah,
Yes,
because I know there's a transportation difficulty.
Yeah.
For getting the high school kids up to, I forget where it is, Daytona, Ormond, wherever those other
Yes.
classes are.
Yes.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner McGirt.
Thank you, Mayor. John, Chris, I want to thank you for coming out and presenting this. I like the new look of the board. It's different, it's more motivated, and you guys seem to be much more engaged in making sure things can happen, putting things together. So I really look forward to the future of the board and what you can do. And of course, reach out to us, let us know what we can do to help and help facilitate your goals. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that comment. We're very passionate about what we do. We want to make a difference in our community, and we'll go to that, work to that end. So I will probably come back to you on some ideas. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you both. Appreciate that. Thank you, Chris. Mr. Assistant City Manager, your report, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of my report, I have a few agenda updates to announce. We're going to pull item 7D from the consent agenda. I am requesting a motion at consent agenda time to postpone item 7I to the June 25th meeting. And we'll be adding item 8B under administrative items, a review draft of city manager contract.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And the handouts, did you want to go over the handouts?
Yes, I have a couple of reports from the public participation from two previous meetings. At the May 14th meeting, the New Smyrna Beach Garden Club came in and asked some question on the airport administrative building. They've met with them. We had 9 individuals at that meeting requesting denial of the 2 homes to be built at Seamus Drive. At the May 28th meeting, Bob Williams came in and reminded us about the upcoming Economic Development Summit on June 19th here in New Smyrna Beach. Had a resident express their gratitude to the Memorial Day ceremony. Several did that. There was thanks for the new pickleball courts at Pettis Park and Rocco Park. There was also thanks and support for the approval of the new school resource officer funding. And there was thanks from Teresa Pope from the Housing Authority for the support for the affordable housing programs. As far as other items coming up, the city manager held a virtual meeting on May 29th with the Southeast Volusia County Economic Development Chair and their committee and Team Volusia in preparation for the up next week's summit. The mayor and city manager held additional meetings with the Chamber and Economic Development Chair on June 4th to finalize those plans for the summit. The mayor and city commission attended a ribbon cutting for the Palm Street Sidewalk Project, which was funded through our very own CDGB grant. The city manager, assistant city manager, and economic development director attended the FCCMA conference in Orlando this last couple of weeks, and we had some great sessions that we think will bring some value to the community. I'd like to introduce our new CIP director who is here with us this evening. His name's Alan Roig. We'd like to welcome here, and he's hit the ground running. Also, as a new face that will be joining us, our new finance director, Kenneth Abidi, will start on June 24th. We're looking forward to having Kenneth here on board and working on that budget and working with our new finance team and the commission. Our CIP grant writer position has been advertised. At the June 25th meeting, our parking consultant will give a brief presentation to the commission on the progress of the consultant's work on the June 25th meeting. What I'd like to do now is call up David Ray and Kyle Fegley. They will give you a brief update on the status of our dredging projects.
All right, I'll go first. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Just an update on the dredging activities. Specifically, I'll start first with the section of Turnbull Canal south of State Road 44. Just as a frame of reference, that's the section, it's right by AutoZone on Walker Drive. If you start there and go 6,000 feet south to Old Mission, it's about 1.3 feet of dredge material that'll be removed. It's a section, trapped oil section, but we're going to be removing about 2 feet of the silt and sediment buildup, organic debris, and that's going to equate to about 11,100 cubic yards of material that's going to be removed. So that is substantial. The dredge material management area, I call DMMA, and the truck route have all been approved through Department of Environmental Protection. DMMA facility is an upland. It's our laydown yard on Turnbull Bay Drive, if you're familiar with that area. So we actually have the DEP Environmental Resource Grant individual permit in hand. So we're in good shape with the state. And coincidentally, a year ago, in June of 2023, City Commission approved the contract with Bayside Dredging for this work, as well as a USDA EWP grant that will support the majority of construction costs. The EWP grant expired, so we had an extension of 6 months, and it currently expires on September 30th of this year. So the only hiccup we have at this point in time is the Army Corps of Engineer permit. It's a nationwide permit. We've got through the technical, environmental end of it. We just need approval from the archaeologist. And at this point in time, I think, Mayor, you were on the communication, the thread. We have reached out to U.S. Congressman Corey Mills, who has the energy and the wherewithal to move this permit through the process. So once that is done, we are ready to hold the pre-construction meeting, and we are eager to move forward with the notice to proceed, so is the contractor. So with that, I'll turn over to David to talk about the north section of the canal and other areas in the city.
Before you go there, Kyle, you're right on the money. The city manager came in and asked if we could make a call up to Congressman Mills' office. It was D-Day, and he was in Normandy jumping out of an airplane. And so we talked to his chief of staff. The idea is that we have all this money in grants that is coming and going to evaporate. And so we have to get it moving. And all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, with the exception of the Army Corps, which these gents have been diligently trying to get in touch with and have not been getting any results. So we think Amy Dunn and Debbie Phillips, the two go-getters on his staff, will have that cranked up soon, so we don't miss out on that opportunity. But that was another city manager initiative that I just dialed the phone. He did all the heavy lifting.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have an archaeologist on board as well as soon as we get the go ahead. All right. Thanks, David. Sir.
Kyle, are we also going to do something about the vegetation?
The vegetation is part of it. We
Okay.
will not remove anything on the embankment because those roots,
Right.
they stabilize that. But anything within the bottom of the canal system will be removed, absolutely.
Because there's quite a bit of invasive peppers out there.
Brazilian peppers, any shopping carts,
Yeah.
anything that's in there will be removed.
Yeah, there's going to be significant removal of the invasive species as part of this program. Once this project is done, we'll seek out other funding through the USDA to remove the balance of the invasive species that remain after this part of the project.
Good.
David, batter up.
Okay, so like Kyle said, for the south side, the north side's pretty similar. We don't need the archaeology permit, but we are working with the Army Corps. We actually had a meeting yesterday. The biggest issue with the north side, working through all the permits, is sovereign submerged land and getting that permit, but we're working with the Corps to get that permit, and the north side is going to be from Jungle Road to the walking trail. So that whole area will be done pretty much identical to the south side. On top of that, we do have the FDEM grant that we were awarded for $3.5 million. We do have 4 areas picked out for that as part of that grant. We're doing the Pine Island and Aqua area. We're going to be doing the Gabordi Canal. We're going to be doing the Menorcan Pond, and we're going to be doing the Cemetery Canal from Sugar Mill all the way to Colony Park Road. All of those 4 will encompass dredging, will encompass bank stabilization, removal of invasives, and removal of any blockages in any pipes or anything like that. That item will be before you next, or in 2 weeks at your next meeting for final approval.
Any questions for Director Ray? So for those of you watching and in the room or on the remote sites, this is your city engineer who's figured out the what we need to have done, and the city director of maintenance operations with the how to get there, all in preparation for hurricane season. So your voices have been heard. This is activity on all of our behalfs, and I applaud you guys for going after it big time, because the season's here and we need to have those things drained out. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
To follow through with Ron's continuance of 7I, I'd like to make a motion to continue RFP 17-24 CIP dredging services through the FDM grant.
Second.
That's 7D?
7I.
7I, okay. So motion to continue that to the June 25th meeting, and we have a motion and a second. Anybody want to discuss that?
No.
Continue.
D was pulled, and 7I, we needed a motion to continue.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Madam City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Vice Mayor, for the push there. Is there more, Ron?
That's all I have this evening.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for sitting in. Mr. Rashadat is at home, healing up, and he is monitoring the meeting, and we hope to see him tomorrow. On to public participation, our favorite part. If there's any member of the public that would like to have a comment, a monologue, telling us something that you want us to hear, or complimenting some member of the city staff, you'll have 3 minutes to do so. When you come forward, your name and address for the record, please. When you get up here, you'll see a green light come on with 3 minutes. You'll have, the yellow light will indicate 1 minute, and you'll be done at the red light. We're anxious to hear what you have to say. Please come up and talk to us. Dr. Herman. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Angie Beretta Herman, 108 Esther Street. I really am here to say thank you to all of you. I think I can speak for the citizens of New Smyrna Beach when I say we really appreciate your leadership, Mayor, and the commissioners, and the CSG, and all the staff for the process for selecting the city manager It's a long and involved process, and I know all of you worked diligently and hard and thoughtfully, and I was really impressed with your ability to be respectful during the entire process. What I particularly want to say thank you for is your soliciting of comments from the public about their feelings regarding and views regarding how they want, what qualities, what skills, what abilities, and what attitudes we wanted to seek in the new city manager. So I felt that there was a transparent process all the way through. I was particularly impressed with the Friday night meet and greet, which I think all of you were kind of anxious about whether that was going to work or not. And the fact that over 120 people showed up for that event, I think shows to you how involved your citizenry is. What I was impressed with was how the candidates that you chose actually reflected the views that the citizens have put forward to you about what they want in a city manager. And I really want to thank you all, because I really felt that you heard what the citizens were after. So I want to thank you very much for that. Personally, I felt privileged, and I know that a few others that were here, that we had a chance to spend the day on Saturday with the candidates. You know, I know it's ancient history in terms of my role, but I, for 10 years, was in a position where I did a lot of dean searches for an academic institution, and I know what's involved and how many hours are involved in that kind of process. And I really felt privileged to be able to sit here and listen to the candidate presentations, to your carefully crafted questions and probing of the candidates. And also I felt privileged to be able to listen to your deliberations. And so I want to thank you for everything that you did. I know that I speak for the citizens of New Smyrna Beach, and I just want to be on the record with that appreciation. So thanks so very much.
Thank
and
you,
I
ma'am.
did it in 3 minutes.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
Hi, I'm Becky Reichenberg from 510 South Cooper Street. I guess I could just say ditto, because that's the reason I was here tonight too, is to thank you all very much for the diligence and just, I know it took so much extra work to do what you did with this new city manager selection. You did a great job. Friday night was wonderful. I wish I could have stayed all day Saturday, but I couldn't. I enjoyed getting to know them. And I think you did a great job in narrowing it down to those 4. And I appreciate all your work, and I look forward to our new city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate those remarks. Anyone else for public participation? Hello, Jess.
Good evening, good morning. Jess Romero, 708 South Cooper Street. As you know, I'm part of the Economic Task Force with Chris and John that was here earlier. And one thing that I try to do is try to see how the city can make money without having to put out too much money. Something that I call passive income. So recently I discovered that we have, to take a quote from Dr. Herman, the husband, a rose and a thorn. Today is a rose, not a thorn. I noticed that there were numerous banners posted at Detweiler Park. And I asked about them, and I found out that Director Salazar figured out a way to make money for the city, passive income. And I thought, great. So now we have these banners in town, and they just hang there. Folks pay money for that. Now, if you go to any sports events or you watch any sports team, NASCAR especially, they have banners, they have advertisement all over the place, and they pay for that. So if we can leverage that facilities that we have, we can leverage the room that we have available to generate revenue for the city, which is passive. It just hangs there. It's an advertising. Now, if we look forward to the future, we can do another thing, take a step forward and do a live cam, a live streaming of our facilities. Could you imagine being a dad away from home and want to see his kid play, but he can't see because he's away? You have a live cam at the sport complex. You can watch this kid from anywhere in the world. Pays a little fee. Gets the company to say, hey, I'll pay you whatever fee is there. Gets to watch this kid play baseball. Gets to watch anything. How are the courts doing today? I can log in and sell. They're playing pickleball at Bettis. They're playing here. They're playing there. I can go play. So it's a way to also generate passive income without having to put city money out for that process there. It'll be a third party that will come in and say, we'll give you guys negotiate whatever the fee is going to be at the end of the day. So I think I appreciate what Southside has done with the banners. I personally want to see more, because that way it generates revenue for the facilities there. Right now we need 2 new nets, because the wind has taken care of 2 nets we just had put up there not even in October. We are a year later, and we need 2, not hold the frames, but the net itself there. They tore apart for the wind. So those things, the money can come in there, and we can replace them easily instead of having to wait for the budget. It's not in the budget. Gotta wait till next year. People complain about it. It's already there. It's passive income. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your remarks. Evening, Cynthia.
Good evening. Cindy Snezak, 512 Yukon. The 2 speakers who spoke about the Saturday event here, dead on in 99% of what they said, so something I want to get to at the end. I'm glad to see that there will be an update from the parking consultant, because I'm not sure that there's been any update before this body since they were put under contract, yet I'm pretty sure I remember that there was a commitment that they would update monthly on their progress. So a statement like that is a commitment to follow through. So it's the kind of thing I think that needs to just get absorbed as an understanding of when a commitment is made for the staff to have, particularly consultants, follow through. I'm particularly anxious to know what they will say in what I think one of their responsibilities was to suggest what changes would facilitate easing the parking situation with comprehensive plan and LDR regulations. I was very disturbed at Planning and Zoning 2 meetings ago, where the folks that are making proposals, like the parking garage that someone wants to build near the Walgreens on 3rd Avenue, those requested changes to those plans and regulations come from the developer. I don't think that's what should be happening. I think staff, our planning staff, should be the ones knowing what the strategies and directions of the city are to come forward with those suggestions. Because putting that kind of spearheading in the hands of the developer just feels like it's not the best thing for us. The city manager selection, I'm glad, Mr. Mayor, that I think Mr. McGurk suggested you be the person quickly seconded to handle the negotiation. The one comment I would say about what would have made Saturday perfect is I felt a real, sense of letdown or an awkwardness about the very end of the day where the conversation was going on amongst the commissioners. So I know you had more information than we did. I'm not sure what the true cost. I heard there was no cost from the consultant to have waited until this evening for you to have slept on a conversation. But I was mostly troubled that I didn't really hear robust discussion. It was respectful, there's no question. But when a question of a colleague is asked and not answered by another colleague, that feels a little funky, and that happened a couple of times. I also would have hoped there was some sort of scorecard where you kind of did the managing up of what the expectations of key skills were against all 4 candidates. For example, I was surprised 2 were unemployed out of the 4 that made the final list. Yet things like that really didn't come up or being looked at for misuse of federal funds, that kind of thing. The things that you probably knew, it would have been good, I think, if your explanation of why you picked who you picked, and I think we're going to do fine with the person who was picked, but your thoughts behind it are why we elect you. We don't elect you so that you can make all the decisions for us without explaining why you're leaning in a certain direction, how you met the expectations of the requirements that you solicited from the residents. It seems to me that backstory would be appreciated in big decisions going forward, and you're going to have some big development decisions going forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. For those of you that don't know consent agenda, those are the items mostly of administrative nature that the city manager feels we can pass as a group. Is there anyone would like to comment on any of the items before we ask for polls? Anybody want to comment on any of these? Understanding that item 7D is not on there and item 7I for India is not on there anymore. Would anybody like to pull any of the items? I think I'd like to pull 7A, and have Arvin say a few words about the fuel. And so I'd like to have that discussed. Anybody else? Then I would like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items 7B, C, E, F, G, H, J, and K.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Preen?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. The consent agenda is approved. And let's look at 7A a little more closely. Arvin, the thing that stuck out to me was that we haven't reviewed the schedules for the fuel schedule in 11 years. And I know that predates you. And maybe a little education on what the FAA allows you to make on it and how you actually manage that business for us.
Sure. So sale of fuel is one of the ways that the airport makes revenue. As you may know, that the airport is self-sustained. It doesn't participate in the general fund. So the revenue that we obtain from fuel sales and rental revenue is the way that we maintain the airport and keep it safe and keep it operating. Fuel sales over the past decade have been somewhat the same, about 500,000 gallons a year. But when we examine the cost of operating the airport, those costs continue to climb, as they do in every other business. And so to keep pace with that, when I evaluated and did a deep dive into the analysis of the costs of what it's actually taking to run just the fuel farm itself, those costs are significant, including, pay, just the maintenance costs. When we talk about, we have to paint the farm, or we have to buy new fuel hoses, or whatever it may be to operate the fuel farm. So what the current fuel resolution calls for is a flat margin, meaning, let's say we purchase fuel and we resell it. So say we purchase fuel at $2 a gallon, we're going to sell it at $2.60. What that doesn't account for is changes in the market. So when you analyze all the airports in a 100 nautical mile radius, you find that we're the cheapest by far. And that, while, that may be advantageous to the consumer, it's certainly when we find that I'm sometimes 10, 20 cents cheaper than anybody else in that 100 nautical mile radius. And not to include the fact that we have a quality product, we have a quality system, and we're managing that, I think, fairly well. So, what we're doing is we're leaving money on the table. Certainly, we don't want to price gouge, and certainly we don't want to be necessarily the most expensive, but we can provide the value to our customers in a way that's maybe possibly even sometimes saving them money, but we're still able to make the profit margin that we need in order to maintain not only the fuel farm, but the airport itself.
Really good.
Thank you so much. Any comments or questions?
Yes,
Commissioner McGurk.
You hit the nail on the head. You said we're cheaper by far than most, if not all, the airports within a certain nautical mile. And that is because the former former airport manager thought that was a good idea. I think it's a good idea to take a hard look at that. The idea behind that was people would come in, and then they can maybe come in and spend money in the community. They'd fly into the area to get cheap gas and maybe stop and eat lunch. So I think that it would be a very good idea, a prudent idea to look at those rates and bring that up to, and I think we're leaving money on the table. I think you said that. I agree with you 100%. And I think that you should look into where you think that equilibrium is. I support that.
Awesome. And I think I understood from your remarks that you were going to look at it, the periodicity would be much more
Well,
frequent.
we look at it weekly, determining what the price is that week, but no less than annually are we going to deep dive into this when we're planning our budget.
Thanks, appreciate that. Commissioner Martin?
Is there any regulation regarding the amount of profit that you can make?
No, it's a good question. So certainly, if we are not, if we have a surplus and it's ongoing year after year after year, the FAA might take a look at that. But we're nowhere near that point now. When we are faced with some of the capital projects that we have upcoming, and not to mention the buildings that need repair, there is.
So we're actually operating where we don't have the reserves that we need to do what needs to be done?
Well, certainly we have, I think at this point, we're walking a fine line. I think we're walking a fine line between not only what we have planned, but every time I turn over another rock, I find more issues that we need to deal with.
So it seems like it's really timely that you'll be increasing that to a market price.
Everywhere we can, we're looking for fair opportunities, but we will always try to keep the customer in mind as well and represent the city well in every way we can.
Any other comments or questions? Excellent. Thank you for your report. Appreciate that, Arvin. And the job you're doing out there is wonderful. Can I have a motion to approve
I'd
item
like to make
7A?
a motion to approve 7A.
A motion
Second.
and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Perine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes. Thank you so much. Let's move on to administrative items and new business. First, let's consider this request from the Sheriff's Department for a fee waiver. I see Director Salazar in the batter's box. We're anxious to have your report, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commission, for the opportunity to bring this item before you this evening. What you are considering is the request from Volusia County Sheriff's Department for a fee waiver for use of the Brandon Center and Riverside Park for their inshore slam event on April 4th and 5th. And the Sheriff's Office brought this item to our Special Events Committee last month. And what the event is, it's a fishing tournament that the Sheriff's Office will use as a fundraiser to facilitate their future events throughout the duration of the year, like Shop with a Cop, and other various events that the Sheriff's Department holds. They will have a educational component of this event as well, including a safety seminar about angling, as well as static displays of vehicles and vendors in the parking lot at the Brandon Center. There additionally will be an opportunity to fish with the deputy for youth. And as I said previously, the funds raised will benefit the Sheriff's Office's outreach programs throughout the year. Previously, the Commission has provided direction or consensus regarding fee waivers and the guidelines before you, that the parameters must be met and brought before you for approval. So there it is for you to consider.
Thank you, Rob. Have you got any, I recognize it's ours to do. Have you got a recommendation?
My recommendation would be to remain consistent with the fee schedule that's in place and the guidelines that's approved. That's my recommendation.
Got it. Is there any, is there anyone from the Sheriff's Department with you tonight? Without objection, have to hear from the representative of the Sheriff's Department.
Good evening. I'm Deputy Lacates. I'm also the president of the Charity Committee, and we've held multiple fundraisers in the past. Most recently, we held motorcycle events up at Harley-Davidson, but I wanted to put us back into the community where we're able to do something back with the public, back with kids. We held a fishing tournament at the Brandon Center in the park back 2008, 2009, where that was very successful. We were able to raise a lot of money for the youth programs. We don't, if you remember that event, we don't intend to scale that big. They had a concert and other things. Ours basically will be the fishing meeting the night before, the fishing the day on the Saturday, the fish with the kids. So that way, it's a little more easier to manage on our end, easier to manage on the city's end. But it gets the kids back with the deputies, the kids in the community, where I felt we were, as a charity, were lacking. So I appreciate your consideration, because obviously any funds that we have to pay for, we can't turn around and give to the youth. So does anybody have a question for me?
Thank you, Deputy. Appreciate the
Thank you
comment.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Sir.
Sir?
So the vendor display would be set up on a Friday night?
Yes, in the afternoon.
Okay, in the afternoons. So how much of the inside of the Brandon Center are you actually going to utilize?
On Friday evening, we'd have a captain's meeting where the captains would come and get their packet for rules and register, or if they're previously registered, they would check in. And then Saturday would be very limited use. Unfortunately, the parking lot is key because you can't park vehicles in the park itself, so we have some sponsors that are willing to do static displays, so we kind of really need the parking lot. So, I mean, I know it takes away the use of the Brandon Center in general, but it's kind of a...
On a weekend?
Yes, sir.
So Rob, have you discussed how much of the Brandon Center are they going to use the bump out room, or, I mean, how much space inside are they actually looking to use?
In regards to the space inside, I think it's more pertinent to understand the parking situation, even though the space may be limited. If they could potentially use the Parkview Riverview component of the building, I think the parking in the lot would be deterrent to have the remainder of the building available for a potential secondary event occurring simultaneously. If that makes sense.
It does, because I know that on images, there's a lot of static displays that are actually in the park itself, on the grassy areas.
Okay.
Was that something that was...
Are you angling towards, in lieu of the parking lot with the static displays, vehicles, vendors, et cetera, shifting that focus into Riverside Park rather than the lot to keep it available?
I'm just thinking if we had something for a rental on a Friday night, you could still use the parking lot and the major part of the center as opposed, but that's something you'll have to work out with them.
Okay. Okay, I'm following. So, I mean, we can...
So for clarity, I think what he's saying is that if you get a twofer here, you get somebody that would be able to use the Brandon Center because they could have the parking lot, and if the vendors don't care whether they're in the grass or on the hard top, winner, chicken dinner, right?
Sure.
Both of you get to go. I don't know if that's possible or not. Who are you, sir?
I'm Sergeant Levin with the Sheriff's Office. I think another thing that we need to think about here is we're going to have children that are going to be here, obviously with the heat and different weather conditions that we get here in Florida. It's also something to take into consideration. Friday night, if we're going to have a captain's meeting, and just like today, it was pouring down rain 30 minutes ago, and now it's nice. If we run into that type of a situation, at least we'll be able to go indoors and still be able to conduct business. The other thing would be on Saturday, the same thing, to have some type of educational deal with the children before you go out and do the fishing. It'll be indoors rather than out in the heat and everything like that. So I think that was another deciding factor with being able to utilize the building, restrooms and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, it says so you're gonna have a restroom trailer.
Correct.
on
We're going to
the
have that as well, but it's
So-
just a secondary.
I mean,
deal.
how many are you expecting?
Well, the fishing tournament back in '08 had like 300 and some anglers that registered.
Okay,
But not everybody's there at one time either.
right. I'm just thinking of trying to air condition the huge space when we could use the side room, if that meets your needs, you know, and then leave the parking open for the people who are coming, the visitors and the applicant, or the participants, rather than fill it full of boats and vendor display. We could get them on the grass. It just seems like if you want your vendors to have access to the participants, that grassy area would be better than having to have them walk all the way around to the front of the Brandon Center into the parking lot. So-
Correct. I think, definitely, I don't think we would need the entire Brandon Center. If there's a portion of it that we could get,
Okay.
I would say about the size of this room would probably work for the captain's meeting and stuff like that. I think we were under the impression that we were not able to utilize the grassy area for any type of vehicles or boats. Correct? Let me address that. That was the reason for.
Okay.
Sure. So we can work with you guys on potentially what vehicles or exhibits can be in Riverside Park. That would be something we would work with our Parks Department on. I can't guarantee you we're going to be bringing heavy equipment onto the grass, but I don't know what the scope yet is for, what you'd want to be facilitating.
Would probably be some cars and some boats.
Yeah, so that's.
Commissioner McGurk. Quick question for you guys. When you say captain's meeting, you had 300 participants, you mean, when I enter these kinds of tournaments, usually there's a specific time for the captain's meeting to show up. Correct. So you can have 200 to 300 captains coming up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And it would be like possibly a silent auction or something indoors at
Yeah.
the same time as the captain.
So I know where Commissioner Hartman was going with using the bump out. And I understand and I agree with what he was saying, although I'm not sure how much of the commission understands what that means. I have an idea. So Rob, bottom line is you have 200 or 300 boats entered. You're going to have 200 or 300 captains showing up for the captain's meeting. The bump out's going to be too small. However, these are my thoughts. I think that I'm absolutely going to support this 100%. These are the kind of things that I talk about when I say there's going to be certain things that I'm going to offer up the Brandon Center for. Rob, when I spoke with you the last time we did this in terms of giving a waiver, that was one time in about a year and a half. Was that accurate? Okay, so I told you that it seems like your program's working. This, to me, in my mind, this is going to be the second time in a year and a half. Certainly, you can keep reminding me of that. So you're going to need you'll probably need the whole Brandon Center space if you have 200 or 300 captains coming in. And it seems like there's some details that can be worked out between you guys and Rob in terms of, I think we have many times in the past done boats, boat trailers, and static looking advertising things in the grassy area. Doesn't mean that there's a detail that I'm missing right now that would prevent that, Rob, but I think just hearing from both of you that there's some detail that can be worked out, and the bottom line is I think the sheriff is doing a great thing. I think it's a great event. I'm really glad that you've picked New Smyrna to host this event, and we work very well together in a lot of different capacities, and I will certainly extend the courtesy. You have my vote for the Brandon Center. Thank you, Mayor.
You betcha. Commissioner Perrine.
I don't have any questions for the sheriffs, but I would like us to vote if everyone's done with the discussion on this, and then I'm going to bring up discussion about adjusting our nonprofit policy after this. We've all met with Rob this week, and I've had at great length discussion with them as well as all of us. We've had a policy in place for 16 months, and now all of a sudden the last 3 or 4 meetings, they've asked for overrides. So I think I have a solution that we've talked about. I'd like to vote on this after Commissioner Martin speaks, and then have another discussion, because I'm going to make a motion.
Sure. Commissioner Martin.
Well, as I say, we are a generous city, but budget conscious, and we do want to provide venues for nonprofit organizations. But we also put a lot of pressure on the Brandon Center to be at least revenue neutral. And this one's especially difficult because April is historically a revenue-heavy month. So instead of these 2 days being revenue positive, they're going to be a cost to it. And so I'm looking at sort of a oblique perspective where we establish a budget for nonprofit organizations that is separate from the profit and loss of the Brandon Center. So that if what we're doing by giving this Friday and Saturday, instead of this gentleman having a positive balance sheet, we are costing, utilities, staff overtime, supplies, and it's a real hit to his bottom line. So we are asking conflicting things of our leisure services department. And if we're going to continue to do that, I think we need to carve out a niche which isn't forever putting people in a very uncomfortable situation, and separate our nonprofit activities from our event venue opportunities. So I'd like to see some way to get this through, but I just really feel that we are doing a disservice to this director.
Any other comments? Mr. Hartman, do you got more? No?
I'm
Good.
done.
Okay. So, guys, you see us trying to get there, right? A couple ideas, and I don't know if you're still in the idea mode. Tents outside. Rob, we have those. We could offer an outside venue and tents, which might help take the pressure off of whatever what all the things you want to do inside the Brandon Center. Another thing is the fishing will take place behind the Brandon Center on that pier, right? For the kids. For the kids. But the day before the Friday registration, that doesn't have anything to do with the pier, right? Correct. So theoretically, you could have the registration in a different place. You could have the registration in this building and use that parking lot if you wanted to. And set up your demonstration in that parking lot. You could use the park across the street and use the parking out front there. So there's another alternative to tying the Brandon Center up on 2 days. Just trying to help give you every way to make the revenue that Commissioner Martin speaks of, because we're hungry for that as well. Now, just me thinking out of the box, me thinking out loud. There's no magic about the captain's meeting being in the Brandon Center because you can see the water, or the displays. You can put the displays here in this lot or in the park, whatever. Just put that into your calculus and think your way through that. That might be an option.
Yeah, Mayor, I think that's a very out-of-the-box idea. I'm not opposed to out-of-the-box ideas. I like creative solutions. I think that would be something that would fall more outside of my realm. If that was the direction that you wanted us to pursue, I'm open ears. We can explore it. So I'm receptive.
Yeah, citywide asset. I know it's not, this building isn't leisure services or that parking lot, but we have a cooperative staff. We've got the assistant city manager sitting there. He can wave his wand, make that happen. But if that's something that doesn't degrade your event, it's certainly an easier way to allow the Brandon Center continue to do something on a Friday night. Just me thinking out loud.
May I?
Yeah, ma'am.
Is it possible, I know we've postponed this once, but you've had a lot of input and perhaps a new way of looking at things. Would it be possible to take some of these out-of-the-box thoughts into consideration and come back one more time?
I can certainly take some of the ideas brought tonight and meet with the sheriff's office and put our heads together and see what a
hearing this input of what an event could look like. I'm not opposed to that if they're willing to, give that consideration.
This is a 2025 event, April of 2025, so it's not around the corner. We got some time to think our way through it, right?
Correct, but as I know with other events, time just disappears on you.
Sure, sure. And the Brandon Center will fill up, and so you want to make sure you're not out of Schlitz. I got it. Okay. Commissioner McGurk.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoy where the conversation is going. Again, why I said I think there's some detail that can be worked out between staff and you guys. I mean, the Live Oak Center has a very big parking lot. We just used it for a public event. That could be a place where you have the captain's meeting. But, okay, the detail and all the information. So I agree with the rest of the commission that there's the possibility that maybe it needs to be used for both days, maybe it doesn't. But what I think we could do is vote on it tonight and then let these gentlemen figure out how they can change this. And then, they may not have to use it Friday night. But in terms of locking it down, I don't want us to kick the can down the road and then staff having this problem where they got someone asking to use it for that time, and now they don't know, and they're stuck in the middle. So I agree. I understand what everybody's saying. There's valid points, but let's just not keep it too open-ended. Thank you.
Any other questions for any of these gents? Thank you all. Appreciate it, deputies. Thank you, Rob. So we've heard Commissioner McGurk's solution about about what we might do. The April timing of this is during school, and so I'm assuming they've got their calendar, Sheriff's Department calendars full. So that's during school months. So I'm assuming there's purpose behind that timing of the event. Any insight on that, Rob?
My interpretation behind that would be it's spring. Spring's beautiful here. It's a great time to be outside, great time to be on the water. I'm assuming that's the draw to having it that time.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
I move to ask 8A to be moved for future consideration, perhaps to the June 25th meeting or whatever time that people can come back with a new plan.
Got a motion to consider this at the next City Commission meeting. Is there a second? Okay. I'll second that because we're going to vote one way or another. So, anybody wanted to more discussion? I like your I don't want to kick the can down the road as Commissioner McGurk points out. It's not good for the Sheriff's Department, not good for you. Should you get some? Have you had any nibbles on that timing? Are there other people that are swimming around saying, "Hey, I like that weekend"?
Yeah, so let me jump in. I think hearing the commission comments, what we can do is we can put a tentative hold on the Brandon Center for 2 weeks over the next 2 weeks while we work a plan with the Sheriff's Office. Use that time to get our ducks in a row a little more, fine tune it, bring it back on the 25th. With a tentative hold, no one's going to come in and take the dates from them. If we can get approval on the 25th, then we can have a yay or nay, lock it in, whatever we're going to do. I think that's a win-win for everybody involved hearing the sentiment.
Commissioner McGurk.
All right, you need a motion for that?
No, we got one. We got a motion and a second to come
our
back.
motion, I want a date specific then.
She said next commission meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
No.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Preen?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes. Okay, so we will absolutely take this up, Rob, with your advice of what we're going to do next time around.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am. We'll get to that. I just wanted to thank you for that effort. I know that it's an awkward spot to be in, and I appreciate. We always value what your opinion is about how to go forward because you run that operation.
And Rob, will you stay up here for for
Yes,
a
ma'am.
minute, please. So before briefings yesterday, we all had an opportunity to meet with Rob about some of the past issues of the nonprofit overrides. And I believe I heard Commissioner McGurk say that we could maybe tweak this a little and offer it to nonprofits if it's not rented, if it's vacant and just sitting there. And so I elaborated on this with Rob, because right now, in addition to our regular current policy of a 50% reduction for nonprofits Monday through Thursday, I like his statement last meeting that we should consider waiving this only if the room or building has not been rented within 2 or 3 weeks of desired date. If this doesn't accommodate the nonprofit, then they should look into renting Live Oak or other events that will fit their schedule or needs. We've discussed this with him, and then we also need to give Rob, our leisure services director, this authority to do this as long as it's within this timeline, so it doesn't have to keep coming back to us. Because we're being the bad guys determining which nonprofit is worthy of these overrides. So here's 2 options for them. You can go Monday through Thursday with a 50% discount. Doesn't have to come to us. If you want a weekend, you can only get that for the 50% discount or free. I guess it would be free on the weekend if it is not rented.
Okay, so you've got an idea for a proposal. We probably ought to discuss it and then have you make a formal motion of that. And we can either say yes tonight or study it or have Rob come back with your formal written up proposal about what words you'd like to have in there. I had a conversation with Director Salazar that said he would like us to leave the policy alone. So maybe we'll get that all figured out tonight while we're sitting here. Commissioner Martin.
I would just like to point out that just because it's not rented, giving a rental isn't free for us. And the 50% does not cover our costs. So we're bleeding red ink, even though we say, oh, it's not rented for a wedding, but we're bleeding red ink when we do that. And that's why I'm thinking a separate, here's our donation pot. When that budget is gone, it's gone. And it gives Director Salazar more flexibility, saving everybody time. Hey, you know, we know the organizations that we've really liked enough to zero out. And if Director Salazar comes up with a dollar figure for our next year budget that says this is our donation, because that's what it is. When we give it over to a nonprofit organization for 50% or zero, it still is costing us. Yeah. And it's costing us serious money. So let's say this is our charity and give them some autonomy. Thank you.
Let me provide a little more detail. So in my individual meetings with each of you, it came up multiple times what the daily revenue generation required to break even throughout the calendar year would be. And based off the current fiscal year's budget, to break even, we would have to bring in approximately $1,700 per day at the Brandon Center. So a Saturday rental is $4,000. Instituting a 50% nonprofit discount obviously would make that cut in half, $2,000. So technically we'd be covering the cost. Keep in mind there's only 52 Saturdays in a year. Those are the higher priced days we have on the books. You know, this current fiscal year, that operating budget at the Brandon Center was a little inflated because we had an emergency air conditioning unit we purchased previously that not necessarily won't be in each budget. So just some future considerations for you guys.
Thanks, but
Really
remember,
good,
we
really
always need to reserve for maintenance.
Understood.
Okay. Commissioner Hart.
So it's interesting with Commissioner Martin's comments, because that's exactly why we set up the commission discretionary fund. It's because the Marine Discovery Center came in here wanting to waive a fee for something, and it wasn't budgeted. So the following year, we created the discretionary fund for us to do those types of things. So we had that in place. We already have that in place now, whether or not, and we've used it throughout the year, so whether or not we continue to use that or increase it or decrease it, I think that's the discussion. But you can also see that once word gets out, everybody's going to be asking for something way out into the future so they can tie up those dollars. So I feel for you.
So I got one, and I'd like Commissioner Perrine's eyes on this. I saw a breakdown of operating costs, G&A, and one other category. And some of those numbers seem out of whack for me for the staff level of the Brannon Center and the activity to have a high amount, the amount of G&A that was tagged onto that. So my question is probably a finance question of, is it peanut butter spread across based on number of headcount, FTE? Is it on real estate? What is it? Because it seems unusually high. And Rob, I don't want to put you on the spot. You got those numbers with you?
Yes, sir. The overhead operating cost that's added on the Brannon Center's budget this fiscal year is $122,000. In relation to fiscal 23, it was 76,000, and in 22 it was 30,000.
I have a comment.
You know about that one?
Yes.
All right, great.
And Rob and I talked about this overhead expense, and I reached out to Khalid, and he's going to work with finance to give us a breakdown, all of this, because the jumps in that didn't make sense to me either. But one of the things I actually talked to Rob about that I would like to at least see is a break even with salary. And we don't have to look at that overhead right now because that's hardly not obtainable. But he is responsible for the salaries, and that should always be included. But if we can at least get to the point where I had some suggestion of utilizing interns, marketing interns, all type of other solutions, other like our Jess Romero, some type of other incomes that will generate revenue related to the Brannon Center. But one of the things Rob and I also discussed is he will usually know if the building is going to be vacant and empty, because I'm concerned with the vacancy rate, and it's just sitting there and we're paying staff, or are we not paying staff on certain days that it's vacant? If it's a weekend day and we're paying staff and it's vacant, and he's going to know within 30 days. He said usually they don't rent at last minute. So that would resolve another issue, not all the issues. We're still going to have this come back. But for example, if somebody requests this on a day that we don't have rented, and we should be able to give him that option to see if it's going to break even with that 50% or that free amount when it's sitting there empty. So that is kind of just an addition to our already policy of the 50% is what he thought was a good idea that we could utilize, and then what it does is gives him the opportunities to say no. You know, if you can't make it work with that in that framework of our policy, then let's look at Live Oak for you or another event center for you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Commissioner McGurk.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's interesting that number you brought up. I say off the top of my head, I think it was like 330,000 or something. And as Vice Mayor, you pointed out, you've requested that from finance, and we're going to get that report, which is great, because that number, there seem to be a lot of issues in that number. You also hit the nail on the head a second ago. how much vacancy is there. This is turning into a detailed conversation, but I will share with you that my conversation with Rob was just that. We have 2 people who work there. We need a strong rental rate. And if there's some fundamental reason why, and I discussed some of my thoughts about that with Rob, that may or may not be accurate, but the rental rate needs to be increased. This center should be booked out 6 months, a year, year and a half in advance, especially when people get married and there's events going on. It shouldn't be this this venue shouldn't be this under rented. So I think that this whole discussion has a lot of spokes in the wheel. I will tell you that when I asked Rob, how many times have we whiffed on, giving up this and taking away any potential revenue from him on a date? We gave it away. It was one time in a year and a half. I generally think that was a very, very good number. Coincidentally, this one's coming up, and that's going to be 2 for me in a year and a half. I get it. But I've also said many times, there's just certain situations and circumstances which I'm going to be willing to rent that out or give the venue up for free, depending on what it is. The sheriff's department, we have such a good relationship with them. I don't want to get in a ticky-tack over them after all the good there's a lot of good interagency. The value we're getting by letting him have that is coming back to us multiple times. So this is a bigger discussion than what Rob probably anticipated tonight, but I think that my conversation with Rob is good, and I think that starting with understanding that big number, and if I'm right, $330,000 or so a year that was applied to it with no explanation of what that actually accounted for, very important. So I think, at least conceptually, if it's not rented 2 or 3 weeks out, we can give it to a nonprofit. My concern with that is I look at what certain nonprofits do and how big that is, and for them to know even 3 weeks out to just then go to contact the printer to start running the printing, and then to get it's not going to be enough time. So it's a tough call here. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. And Rob, square me away. You're within like 10 grand of making your goal for this year.
Sure.
Would you point those numbers out?
Yeah,
so
yes,
everybody
sir.
can have that?
So the gross revenue goal for fiscal '24 at the Brannon Center coming into the year was $300,000, and that's between external rentals, private rentals, third-party rentals, and the events and programs that we put on as the city there, the concerts, the piano shows, the dinner shows, stuff like that. With projections through the remainder of the fiscal, we should hit that total. We'll probably be around 310 in total revenue. So this will be the first year we've exceeded $300,000 at the Brown Center in gross revenue historically. I do have that occupancy rate percentage. This current fiscal that we're in, we have 211 external rentals. 58% of the time we have a external rental at the building. That's all 365 days. So last fiscal we had 195 total rentals for the duration of the year, including our internal events that we utilize the center. This could be an HR event, it could be a leisure event, it could be a police event, whatever that is. 259 events for fiscal '24 at the Brennan Center, 70% occupancy.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Martin.
Just a quick one. I'm going to assume that if there's no event at the Brandon Center on a Saturday, you don't have staff there.
Correct.
Okay. The other one is when we come out to costing, I know in the past, and I'm not sure about now, maintenance ops If they maintain something in the building, is that on your cost budget or is that on maintenance ops cost budget? If something is going on there that requires first responder in attendance, whose budget is that on?
So, any staff time from another department, whether that's maintenance ops or whoever, would come from their budget. If the resources needed for repair, drywall or plumbing or et cetera, whatever it is, that would fall from the Brandon Center budget that maintenance ops staff would be doing the work on.
So when maintenance ops staff is doing the work, we assume that that's on maintenance ops staff budget and that that cost is not allocated to the Brandon Center budget.
The staffing cost would not be, the material supplies would.
Understood,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
you see that, I mean, you know, staff time in any position
Sure,
is
certainly.
not free.
Correct.
And so we are in fact burdening one budget while lightening another by doing it that way.
Commissioner Perine.
So for transparency, we're not 10,000 off. Maybe his goal was 10,000 off, we're 310,000 off. Because we have 300,000 we're short in personnel. That does not include the staff wages. So we've got a lot of work to do, and I love how we're engaging in this conversation. And this is why I, no offense, I love the sheriff's department like all of us do. And we definitely need that relationship. There's no doubt with what Commissioner McGirt said, but we've got to find ways because, he has all of these nonprofit fans that he wants to give freebies for, and the rest of us have set policies that we want to see set and kept. So which one is it? We have the discretionary fund. We have Monday through Thursday, they can get the rental 50% off. We went 16 months holding to that. Now why all of a sudden they're hitting us it's not just the sheriffs. We've had Kiwanis, or we've had a lot in the last few weeks. I can't remember all the nonprofits. We had Habitat. So why didn't we look at those and say, why didn't you have your event at Live Oak? Why didn't you have your event on Monday through Thursday? We're not sticking to policy, and I have a problem with that. I like consistency. And there shouldn't be one commissioner up here thinking he can say that he can give this to the nonprofits that he wants. That's not fair to Rob. So, we had this lengthy discussion. We've got to set a policy and stick with it. I don't like hearing I'm going to give who I want to give to. That doesn't make any sense to the rest of us. When we have a policy, we stick with it, or we come up with a policy that works for everyone so we don't play this unfairness.
Thank you, ma'am. Chair's discretion. I know there's some others that would like to speak. There's a line, in my humble opinion, between what the written word is and what the judgment calls are on a variety of items that come before this group. If we didn't have that judgment, I think that's unfortunate, and so from time to time, a judgment call is made. Should we have a policy and a procedure that we follow majority of the time? Absolutely. It ought to be in place, and the one we have right now, not too good, and we're hammering that out. But I don't want to make it just a robot up here. I want to make sure that we reserve the right to do something different. Our personal opinion may differ from commissioner to commissioner over what that latitude is, but that's why we're here, and that's why we get to talk with each other and try to influence one another. Commissioner McGirt.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, I think I've made my position very clear that I'm going to stick to the policy as much as I can, but I am not a literally and purely black and white person. If I see something that I can help, if I see that the overall good of that is better than what the negative is, I'm going to react on that. And I will tell you that black and white is good, but it's not always the answer. And we have a fundamental difference, and I will tell you that there's people a lot of people in this community that want us at times to make a tough decision. Your tough decision is obviously no on these cases. That I feel my difficult decision is I will say yes. It's not a disrespect to you. There's no challenge I'm giving to you. It's not that it's fair or unfair. Life sometimes is not fair or unfair. You know, life is like that at times. I certainly am not trying to make your job harder. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so without objection, I think the direction, Assistant City Manager, is that next time we have, or the next meeting, or as soon as we can, have Finance unearth what this is, that's about all the charges and what the dissection of G&A is. Have Rob, you come back with a proposal of some rule set. If you want to informally meet with each of us ahead of time and try it out, that might be advisable. And that for us to come up with some, there's a sense that there's a policy that needs to have a second look. We made one, we're varying from that more and more, and we'd like to have a second look. Without objection, can we offer that direction?
Okay, that's separate from the direction to let's have a creative look at the sheriff's plan.
Yeah, we voted on the sheriffs. They're
So,
coming back. They're
okay,
coming back
that's
next
it.
week.
Okay, just
They're
wanna
coming
make
back next
sure
time. Yep.
that
Sheriff's
you're
Department,
saying-
separate issue. This one is about for everything going forward.
Is it appropriate to do that now when we're starting work on the new budget?
I don't know, but I don't want to not do it.
Well, as you recall, at the last meeting when we discussed this, there was direction given to the staff to create a revised policy and several options under that revised policy, and we're working toward that.
Okay, well, obviously, we want it sooner than later because we don't want to have these keep coming at us and we don't have the policy that we think we're after. Or, you know, the differences of opinion are fine. We will always have those differences of opinion here, Rob, but we're looking for your expertise and how we can get there. And we want to unearth what's going on behind the scenes so that we can understand what makes up the G&A on top of all the other expenses that you can control, because you're not controlling the majority of your expenses, as I understand what you got. Go ahead.
When we adopted the Brandon Center, the current fee structure in January of '23, I had a staffing model proposed that would cover the expenses based off my projections with staff. I can bring that back for consideration at the next meeting. Additionally, the overhead figures in the budget set by finance, I don't have input on how those are calculated, and I don't control the salary adjustments to the positions that are allocated to the Brandon Center. I control which positions can go to the Brandon Center or which staff I can move there, but I have to have staff there, obviously. So
This is exactly why we're asking the Assistant City
Yes, sir.
Manager to do it, so that you don't have I don't want a contest between you and finance. The city manager should handle that activity, and it ought to be transparent so everybody can see it. And maybe
Sure.
we've unearthed something that's going on all over the place, and we just want to know what it is.
Rob, I have one more question.
yes, ma'am.
The personnel for 2024 is 297,000. Is that for four-head count, or
Yes.
does that include other, like, maintenance allocations to that? Is that just 4 people?
That's 4 people. It's a center manager, a program coordinator, and 2 event techs. And that includes salary and benefits and all personnel expenses in that 297.
All related?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking at it, the operating is 320, the personnel is 297.
Correct.
His uncontrollable is the overhead allocation, and that's 122,000. So total expenses is $739,000, and we are only bringing in $310,000. This is for transparency for the public. So the total net loss is $429,000. So where we're trying to get is a dissection of that $122,000 overhead charge from finance. But then we definitely have to have our revenues cover salary, the $297, and the operating $320.
Sure.
So I don't want people in the public thinking that $310 is going to cut it. It isn't.
Understand.
So this is something that I'm taking a hard stance on this, because I have citizens that, when I ran for this election, that said we need to break in. Brandon Center brings a lot of value to the community. I understand that. But it also, with our general fund, we've got to see this do a better job. And you have done a fabulous job. Every year he's been able to increase this a large percent. I don't have the percents in front of me. So we're getting there. We just got to cover wages too. And we up here as a board need to figure out how we can help you do that, not give away free stuff all the time. And I know I want to give it away to my favorite nonprofits too, but we got to come up with a way that we can do this, that we all move forward.
We will develop some options that meet what we believe are the two desires that we're seeing from the commission. We'll bring those options to the commission. We'll have answers on those indirect costs that are being allocated by finance, and we'll have all those answers.
Thank you.
Very good. And I think we have a workshop on the 20th. It's a budget workshop. That'll be perfect place to get that covered, right?
It's an open discussion quarterly workshop for the city commission.
Say it again, please.
Open discussion quarterly workshop for the city
Yeah.
commission from 9 to 1.
Perfect. Okay. Excellent. We'll get there. Any other questions for the director? Rob, thank you very much. Anything else you want to?
No, thank you, and I truly appreciate the dialogue. It helps me understand where you are, and I appreciate each of you. Thank you.
I'm glad he thinks so.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure.
Okay, now on to the easy one. Item 8B, the new city manager contract. Is Heather going to lead us in that, or the city attorney, or a combination thereof?
We also have Doug.
Mr. Thomas
on
is
Teams.
available?
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
Great. Do we want him to lead the discussion, or do you guys want to call the shots?
Sure. We'll let Doug lead it, but we'll have Heather come up.
Okay. So at this body's direction, last time we were together, you asked me to get cooking on the contract. And so through conversations with the HR director, Kidd, and the city attorney, we've looked at other cities. We've looked at Mr. Rashadat's contract. We've looked at his predecessor's contract, and I think we've got a skeleton of what that would cause us to have to make some decisions tonight. With that, I see Mr. Thomas's smiling face. Heather, do you want to talk first? Or you want him to start?
We've set this up pretty much so that Doug could take this, so we'll let him do that if that's okay with you.
Okay. All yours, Doug.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I could not hear if that was Heather or not. So thank you. I appreciate being with you, albeit remotely tonight.
Phil, please turn the gain up on that so we can hear him even better.
Gotcha. Do it. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Better. Thank you.
That's better. Great. Okay. Super. Wonderful. Well, I appreciate being with you this evening. When we last left off on Saturday, we were trying to determine kind of what the next steps were with regards to moving forward to advance negotiations with your leading candidate for this. And so what I have done since that time is converse briefly with your HR director and your city attorney, drafted what originally we often will use for negotiation purposes, a kind of a high level terms and conditions sheet. Just to try to get the process started with the candidate and with the organization. I often help the organization try to bring that process together. Since that time, we've had a chance to get some updated information from your HR department about the kind of standard benefits that are traditionally provided for your department heads and your city manager and things of that nature. Since that window, so we really were working from kind of a term sheet, but there was also a desire recognizing you've only got a couple meetings before you're going to be off in July. And so there was a desire from your city attorney to start to incorporate into a draft employment agreement, which was also, I think, shared with you and myself this afternoon. So we actually have a couple of different documents in play right now, in addition to, as I think you mentioned, Mayor, a quick survey that your HR department had done in some surrounding communities for city manager compensation and benefits. So the goal that I have, typically what we try to do is have a representative from your commission be appointed to assist us in negotiating the fine details of the process. But because of the timing and because of all the dynamics at play, we really haven't had a chance to kind of kick that off. So it was discussed that maybe it was helpful to at least have the body as a whole see at least where we are today, to start those negotiation processes, and then from there provide some direction and feedback so that we can start to put things in paper and then get something slid across the table, if you will, to your candidate to start the negotiation efforts. So I'll stop there for a second and address whatever questions may come up at this point.
Looks like we're good for now, Doug. Keep going.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, so what I would suggest, I'm sorry. Is there a question? I'm sorry.
Not yet?
No.
No, okay, gotcha. I'm sorry. The audio is a little challenging on this one with the remote tonight. So what I would suggest is that maybe we work from the draft employment agreement that Carrie has assembled for you, because at this point, since we have a draft document, maybe that's just the easiest thing to work from as well. And I'll bring up my copy of that as well. What I can tell you at a high level is that, obviously you've identified the lead candidate with regards to Mr. Cowper. The recitals are pretty straightforward. The term of the employment identified is basically that we have not started a conversation with Kevin yet, but the discussion was to try to see if it would be possible to see if he would be able to start no later than August 1st. The duties included in the document really come directly out of the job description and the responsibilities, I suspect, out of your charter. So those pieces are really just kind of summarizing the roles and responsibilities of the manager. I'm going to go through this quickly in terms of background, but please stop me if there's a question or an issue that comes forward. Obviously, we've got to get some direction from council or the commission on a couple items. Point number 3, dedication to city business. It's recognized that this is a full-time position. However, many managers are asked from time to time if they're interested in teaching or other type of opportunities to potentially work beyond the scope of the responsibilities of the manager. Most agreements we see have language very comparable to what you've got here, that this is recognized, this is the full-time, but if there's an opportunity that the manager would like to do something, he would have to come and receive prior approval from you in order to do, a consulting or teaching or whatever the case would be. Section 4, hours of work. You all know the number of hours, and a manager was one of your questions you asked about being accessible and available. This just basically recognizes that the person's outside of the Fair Labor Standards Act for overtime has some flexibility in adjusting schedules based upon the number of hours that are done off the traditional work schedule. So the next piece really gets into some areas we'd like to get some feedback and direction on. So the first piece, obviously, is the starting salary. And we have plugged in a starting base salary of $195, which would be comparable to what your current manager is making. I will tell you that typically that's how most of these positions come in. If someone is coming in with 30 plus years of experience and they're replacing a 30 plus year experience employee, compensation is normally pretty typically around the same level or potentially even higher depending on the circumstances if a manager hasn't been adjusted in recent years. But the bottom line is we typically see that coming in. Now, the one caveat is if you're hiring maybe someone who's never been a manager or has younger tenure in the profession, sometimes you will see a starting salary be lower than your or significantly lower than your current compensation for your existing manager. But so Khalid and Kevin, both are comparable in terms of years of experience in the profession of local government, and so we would anticipate that that number would be fairly comparable. If with Mayor, with your consent, maybe what I could do is just kind of walk through the totality of the agreement first, and then we can come back, because at the end of the day, a lot of these numbers can be moved around. It becomes a total compensation issue. But if you're okay, maybe I can just provide a quick overview, and then we can come back and talk about the salient points.
We're making notes, so without objection, we'll allow him to go through the whole thing, and then we'll dissect it section by section without objection. Okay, go ahead, Doug, keep going.
Makes sense? Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so one of the pieces we need to get, this is a transition from your current manager. Khalid has been with the city for a long time. You at one point were part of a state retirement system that has transitioned. So obviously he has a different retirement program than what we're now talking about for your general employees, your department heads. And so the retirement information, you have a 401A deferred compensation program. As I understand it from talking to Heather, the way the city provides for that is an 8% of the manager's base salary going into that. As you'll see, you also have a matching provision for supplemental retirement into a 457 deferred comp plan with up to 2% matched by the city. So that is reflected there as well. One transition that we often see is different for managers than and appointed members, constitutional officers, if you will, of a city is that most of the time the retirement becomes effective 100% vested on day one, just because of the nature of the position as opposed to some graduated scheduled plan. So that's what I understand has been the practice there. Automobile allowance is another area we see some transitions. We typically see that in the neighborhood between $500 to $700 per month. I think you're currently doing $600 for your auto allowance program, so it's certainly within the competitive nature. And then there's always the ability, if somebody's traveling for a conference or out of state or something and they're using their vehicle, that there is some reimbursement once you go beyond, in this case, a 100-mile radius of the city. And that's fairly typical. We see that, or within the county boundaries, things like that. My understanding is your manager has traditionally been provided the same health insurance programs as your non-unionized employees. So that provides for medical, vision, and RX type programs. That's provided 100% for the family coverage of that, but it is a cafeteria plan, so you pick and choose what that is. So that was supposed to be intended to be directly consistent with what you've traditionally done. Personal leave is an area that sometimes we see some movements around. As I understand it, what you presently provide for new employees coming in would be, if they were to start at the beginning of the fiscal year, they would receive up to 200 hours. If they start at some point later, it becomes prorated. So for purpose of discussion, what we've done is working with Heather, it looks like that would be prorated at 33 hours initially. And then on October 1, then that would pick up the 200 hours, and each year that you're employed, you pick up an additional 6 hours of personal leave. There's also 4 floating holidays, so that has all been put together the way that you traditionally provided that, and that's subject to a maximum allocation of 320 hours that an employee could earn under your graduated system. That is an area I will tell you that sometimes there's some adjustments on that where you front load some additional benefits. So I'll just say that's something that I would not be surprised that could be a negotiable item that would come forward. Certainly when you've got an individual looking to relocate, they're going to have to go back and forth. They may be selling a house. They may have to handle the transition work if all that move doesn't happen initially, and having some vacation in the bank, so to speak, on day one is appreciated. Disability and life insurance is per your existing policies, and so those are straightforward. So on the next piece on housing relocation, this is obviously something you had not faced, at least in recent years, as Khalid was with the city and did not have to relocate. I will tell you, in all the agreements that I've been involved in negotiating, housing can be rather complex or fairly straightforward, or a combination thereof. It really has to be tailored to the unique needs of what the employee may be facing in terms of relocation and what the city's comfortable addressing. What we proposed here, as I understand it through your charter, the manager needs to establish regular residency and domicile within the corporate boundaries of New Smyrna Beach. That would be within 6 months of appointment, so that's consistent. How you pay for that is different from contract to contract. I have had many communities where they'll say simply get 3 quotes. The lowest of the 3 quotes, the city issues a purchase order for the relocation of the household, and that's called a day. I will tell you that the cost of relocation is typically based on 3 factors. The size of the household and how much weight ultimately goes into the truck. The time of the year in which you relocate. It's typically more expensive to relocate during the summer when everybody does it because of kids and everything else. And then the last component is typically the mileage distance between point A and point B. So some communities will negotiate a flat not to exceed amount. Other communities will say get quotes, and then once we know what that is, we'll either pay the lowest quote or we'll use that quote as the basis for determining how we're going to handle relocation. A function is it's a little bit more challenging in today's marketplace because of interest rates. And I know Florida's a hot market, but it costs a lot for insurance and all those types of functions. And I don't know what your housing market looks like right now. Sometimes managers are forced into having to get a local, an apartment or something until they are able to find a house that works for them. Sometimes that means they've sold their other house and they may have to put things in storage. So what I say is until we really get in a conversation with Kevin about how quickly they would anticipate being able to sell and relocating to New Smyrna, this number is something that is likely to be adjusted based upon the unique circumstances. And so it can really vary. We've just simply put a placeholder in there right now, but that's something I would suspect we need to, once we start the process with Kevin, we'll just have to get a better feel for what that might look like. But typically, I will tell you, if it's a straightforward issue, most cities cover the cost of relocation for their manager at 100%. But as I said, we can discuss what that might look like based on different options, based on his needs and your desires as well. Not surprisingly, you provide a laptop, a cell phone, iPad. That's all standard for your executive staff there. And then traditionally, we see in the professional development arena that you would cover the cost associated with the manager's participation in ICMA and FCCMA and other organizations, subject to your budget authorizations, but basically to continue their professional development in their role. The next piece is something we always recommend, especially as a new manager coming in. Most agreements will have provisions that the manager goes through at least an annual performance review. We typically recommend with a new manager that you try to do this initially at a 6-month, and we call it kind of a check-in evaluation. We just think it's helpful that the parties, there's a transition. You've had a long-term manager there. Whoever comes in is going to look and feel different to you. A couple of you mentioned that during your interview process. And so we think it's helpful to have the parties get together at least at 6 months in to make sure everything's working well. And if there's adjustments, we don't have to wait another 6 months to kind of make things work for both the manager and the mayor and the commission. So what we've suggested is that would happen 6 months after the appointment. I will say that if the parties don't come together initially on the starting salary, sometimes that 6-month check-in may accompany a bump in pay as part of the negotiation process. That all depends on where we land if the parties reach agreement on the other terms. But sometimes that's a way to help the parties come together on salary compensation as well. Not surprisingly, we would normally have them, obviously adhere to all the provisions associated with your personnel policies and your procedures as part of the position. We factored in, we typically see anywhere between 30 to 60 days of a resignation notice. 30 to 45 is fairly typical, but 60 days is not unrealistic. That's what you have currently, so we've simply plugged that in for now. And then, as in all positions, this is an at-will position, so there's provisions associated with termination. And the first part of the termination clause is basically you do something wrong, illegal, immoral, break a law, something of that nature. That creates a cause where severance would not be provided. And you'll see those as outlined, and your attorney can kind of walk through those details. But those are all pretty traditional reasons in which severance would not be provided. That the parties are simply, the manager's done something wrong that would necessitate a termination of their employment. The second piece of this is really if you decide to part ways without cause, and under that provision in the state of Florida, the maximum severance is provided as 20 weeks. So that's consistent with what we see in all of our agreements for city manager process. This is when the parties just agree to separate, and there's not really a reason behind it. You're just ready to make a transition, and that's a fairly straightforward process. And the 20 weeks is governed by state statute. There is a provision that we see in some agreements. I understand that you have one there in New Smyrna, or historically have had something to this effect. You may remember when I first came on board to work with you, I said that managers were often hired and fired with enthusiasms, but rarely by the same boards. We do see some provisions, such as what you'll see in Section C under this arena, that if a manager is removed within 90 days before or right after an election, that in some cases they require a supermajority or a unanimous vote. And so that's language that I've seen, I believe, in your existing documents. So we just carry that forward. As I say, we often see that. That gives the manager some protection in the event that a new group comes on board, at least, and it looks like it's not going to be a long-term relationship to kind of get their house in order, so to speak, beyond a severance where they may be separated. And then there's provisions that have become disabled or otherwise unable to perform. There's a way to kind of cut the cords there as well. And then the balance of the provision is kind of boilerplate in the process. And so that's kind of the nature of what we've got together. And I think what we want to do is just to try to, number one, make sure that what we've suggested at least is a general agreement of you as a board, or if you've got other thoughts and opinions, we'd like to get those in place so that we could put this in a formal fashion. We could get it, slide it across, and get it to Kevin to start the negotiation process. And then just as a last point, right now, Mayor, you've been designated as the lead person as we go back and forth through these negotiations. But in the event, not knowing what your schedule would be, if there's some reason you're unable to make a meeting or an ability to chat, we may want to talk about having a backup just in the event that we've got a problem recognizing the tight timetables that we're facing to try to get a document back before you as a full party for consideration and approval. So I'll stop there and open up for questions, or certainly Carrie or Heather, if either one of them may have anything that they wanted to add before we get into the deliberations, that may be appropriate as well.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. Anything from you, Heather?
No, nothing additional at this time.
Okay. Carrie, what do you got?
I just have a note. One thing I did not have in the employment agreement that I know was mentioned was repayment of moving expenses if he leaves sooner than a certain time frame.
Yes, like that idea. Certainly, we don't want to have to go. We would love the longevity. He's a senior member of his management team and been in this business a while, and so we want to make sure he stays as long as we can, as long as we're happy and as long as he's happy. We want to make sure that he stays. That's one incentive that we could offer. All right, so let's go up and down the way here. Commissioner Hartman.
So, Doug, on number 9, I think that's fitting because we normally do our evaluations in February anyway. So that 6-month time period is certainly doable because we're accustomed to that time period. So there's no issues with that with me. Under termination, Section A, just to be so that we're consistent throughout the whole process, the affirmative votes of a supermajority of the members of the city commission. I prefer to see that language. That's just me so that we're consistent throughout with what we've already done. And that's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Martin.
Oh, just, it wasn't clear to me if we were putting a cap on the number of times we pay for house hunting trips. It appeared open-ended, but I may have misinterpreted.
In the employment agreement, there's a cap. You're looking at terms and conditions?
I got them both going. What can I tell you?
Yeah, what are you looking at?
Just not to exceed.
Not to exceed 15,000 for the.
Okay, so we're not going to ask how many, so you're saying that this paragraph, not to exceed 15,000, includes all the house hunting trips? Okay. It wasn't clear to me, so perhaps it's not clear in the contract. So, just a suggestion. And the other question is I understand that it would be a good idea to have a second person on call for the negotiating, and I'd like to nominate Randy.
Great, we'll take those nominations later. And I've changed my travel plans. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be right here for the next 3 or 4 days to get this over the finish line. Commissioner McGurk.
So I agree with Randy about the super majority. I will say that at first, the difference, this is an at-will state. I see we have the with cause and then without cause. I guess I'm generally comfortable with it. You have the 20 weeks that the state requires, or maximum that the state allows. I'm comfortable with that. C, in terms of 90 days before or after a commission gets voted in, I'm not sure I see the relevance of it. Either you still need the majority or the supermajority. I'm okay if people want to keep it in. I just don't necessarily see the relevance of it. Other than that, I have no problem with it, and I think it generally looks good. I'm impressed that it's pretty well covered.
Mr. Perrine.
I agree with the 6-month evaluation and would love to see if he terminates prior to 5 years that the relo is repaid. And I agree with the supermajority. I have no other comments.
Righty. Current city manager is at 190. Is that right?
That's correct.
I would favor starting at our current city manager's salary, not 5 more just because. Is there wisdom? There may be wisdom behind why you do that, Heather or Doug?
We looked at his starting salary, Khaled's current salary being 190 right now. In October, we would assume a 3% increase at this time, the way the budget looks. So that would put him at 195. That was why we looked at 195. So you'd have some options of perhaps not doing a general wage increase, doing something at 6 months versus the 2 to possibly 3 months max that we could be at that point. We just needed a starting number to get you at.
Classically, do we negotiate and the candidate comes in, if we set the bar, he says, okay, we start at 195, that's already above what we're currently, are we just setting ourselves up, Doug? Or do they generally take what you offer?
So, Mayor, the only other piece, I'm sorry, Heather, I can't see you, so I didn't know if you were about to speak.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, gotcha. So the only other piece I would add to the equation, I realize, as I say, this is all part of the negotiation process. You may remember when we asked all the candidates to provide some responses to a questionnaire, and one of those questionnaire responses had to do about generally what your salary and benefit expectations would be. And so what we try to do is recognize that each of the candidates, when you're considering whether you're going to ultimately invite them in as a finalist, recognizing you're not negotiating at this point, but at least you have an idea of kind of where they think they would like to be, and that's hopefully within the ballpark of what you've got. All of your candidates were within the range. Your salary advertised range by the position was at the low end 137,000, at the high end 219,000, depending obviously of qualifications, background, experience, things of that nature. When Kevin's had responded in his question, and you probably don't have the material, but it was question number 20 in the question response. He had just indicated that he was looking to be at the upper end of the salary range based upon his years of experience. So we didn't go to the very top of that range, obviously, but we tried to put it, in the ballpark of where your current manager was. So just as background information, obviously everything's negotiable. All the numbers have to come together, and what you move on one area, you might move differently in a different area. So I'm sensitive to that factor, but that was kind of how we got to the initial salary that we plugged into the number.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Doug, I think that's a great idea that you ask them that question before they meet all of us.
Randy, I don't know if you're asking if they want more now or less. I'm not sure.
Exactly. So
no problem with the retirement. The automobile seems exactly where we are right now. Personal leave, you've figured that out on a scale based on number of days here. Relocation, a couple options there. We can do the 15,000, which seems low to me from Dothan, in general, under today's terms.
I would agree with you on that, Mayor. I think that number, we just put it as a placeholder. I think that number is probably low.
The caveat I would add is just to make them provide receipts, so it doesn't become, here's an allotment, you get 15,000 whether you spend 2 or 15 or 20, but if you provided receipts along the way, that would offer some accountability. It's just my suggestion.
Okay.
Termination, no problem with the status quo of supermajority. That'll be up for debate at the next charter review in 2025, along with many other topics. On the relocation payback, I would favor if that a payback be asked if Kevin left within 3 years. If he leaves after 3 years, I wanted to say 5, but 3 is probably reasonable. Don't want to see him leaving in a year and a half. Don't want to have to do this in another year and a half.
Mayor, if I could add, we sometimes see some payback provisions like that. Normally what we see is they get prorated. So if it's within 3 years, a third of is forgiven, the second year, a third of it's forgiven, something like that. I just throw that out. We haven't had the conversation yet, but I just throw that as we sometimes will see that be graduated based upon a sliding scale, if you will.
Really good. I appreciate that. And that could be just like you said there. Just for the commission's edification, I did look up salaries. I think you may have even been sent this spreadsheet. A couple cities that are similar to ours. DeLand, city manager, has been in place since July of 08. He's at 195, started 115. Joyce Shanahan up in Ormond started 133. She's been there since 09. She's at 205, almost 206,000. She started at 133. And Wayne Clark in Port Orange started in 21. He's at 195,000. Started at 165,000, if that helps you. So is it your recommendation then, team?
I have a comment about the salary.
Yeah.
On his Dothan contract from 2021, Doug, is showing that 3 years ago he was at 195. So is he going to be taking a cut in pay even if we start him at that 195?
Commissioner, I think I'm having a tough time hearing you, but I think what you're saying is where his previous post was, he was at 195. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
This agreement was dated 3 years ago, though, 2021. Right. So is that saying he didn't get a raise in 3 years?
I assume that there has been some adjustment there. That's a document that obviously your staff was able to get as well. So most of the time, there's an annual review and there's some adjustment there. All I could add to that is that obviously cost of living, Florida doesn't have an income tax. I don't know, or state income tax. I don't know if Alabama has that or not. Those are all factors consideration. Managers will look at this at a total package. They'll basically say, what's my compensation? What's my retirement? How's this all look out? And they'll run those numbers. And so, as I say, some of these numbers can move around a little bit based upon their desires and their expectations. So I think if you're comfortable, I think you start at that number and then let's see where the negotiations go. And if there's a number that ultimately gets to be of concern to you in terms of a base salary, we can help you figure out if there's a way to slice and dice that differently to bring the parties together to make everybody happy with a final package.
When I compared our preliminary with his current, it felt like we were compensating with car allowance and vacation time. We have a lot more vacation time than he was currently enjoying. So, and I think our car allowance was 700 to his 600, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, the only difference on the Dothan is they had sick leave and personal leave, whereas we don't have sick leave. So that's a little bit of a adjustment there. And then to answer Vice Mayor's question, this was his starting salary in 2021, so he could have gotten increases without going back and amending this contract.
Right. So, in any case, when you look at the total comp package, I think perhaps the vacation, the car allowance, everything will be how, hopefully, he looks at his start here in New Smyrna Beach.
Anything else? Commissioner Martin?
Yeah.
Okay. So Doug, my question that I wanted you to answer was, do they classically negotiate on the salary or do they leave it there?
I think what I heard you say, Mayor, is, would you repeat that? I'm sorry, I really couldn't make out what you said.
Do they classically negotiate on the salary, or when you put that number down, do they say, okay, I'll negotiate other things, but I'll leave the salary alone, or do they go for the salary?
It really will vary based upon the candidate, Mayor. The salary may be lower than what Kevin is expecting at this stage, and so he may look to push on salary and maybe push on some other areas. I say I would anticipate the relocation is something that we often spend a lot of time kind of working through once we start the discussions with the candidate. And so I've had some candidates that have said, I'm okay on the salary, but I need to talk about other items. I've had other candidates that I've negotiated where we've got to talk about a bunch of things. So until we really start the process, I can't tell you there's a standard way.
Okay. So at this phase, at this point, Doug, each of us have had individual items that we wanted to adjust here, and then there's also the item of having a standby in case I'm not available. So do we go through each of them and take a vote on each one? Do we do it as a package? What's the most expeditious path that you've seen work before?
I think what I've heard, there's some questions about the unanimous vote. I think I heard a number of you say that, so we could certainly move that to a supermajority as versus a unanimous. I think that's what I was hearing of the concern. I don't know that I need to go item by item unless you all feel a desire to do that. My desire is to make sure, are we relatively at least in a comfort zone of you as a body, because we're likely to be making some changes on these items. So I really don't necessarily need to get locked down. I just want to make sure before we slide a document across the table and Kevin looks at it, that there's nothing there that's so objectionable to you that we want to change it before we start that process. I think that's what I'm more looking at this stage.
Mayor, there's nothing in this document that is a deal killer for me or very objectionable. I'm comfortable with you moving forward with this preliminary document and start that negotiation.
Sir, appreciate that. See a nod from Commissioner Martin. Vice Mayor.
As long as the termination clause for the 3 years is payback is included, 3 is fine.
And you move that supermajority for termination?
Yes.
Yeah.
On the repayment,
Did you say remove it or?
Add it. Make sure she wants super majority on everything.
on the repayment, is that just if he voluntarily separates, or if we fire him, does he have to pay back his moving fees? Or
So
he's
if it's for
terminated?
cause, I think it goes away automatically. I think that's in the writing. If it's for cause, they don't get it, they have to pay it
Well,
back.
it's not in here, so that's why I'm
No,
asking.
I would think it'd be if he voluntarily separates, he would be on the hook for the fees. But Doug, have you, on the repayment of moving fees, have you seen it, whether it's voluntary or involuntary termination, or what have you seen in that?
It is typically on a voluntary resignation. So if somebody comes in and for whatever reason they decide to leave within 3 years, we scale it down either 30% a year or 33% a year. But if he's terminated, that normally goes away in response to the commissioner's
We're
comments.
nodding on that. Is the commission's will to start at 195 and negotiate from there, or do you want to start at 190 where Mr. Rashadat is? I would like the 190, but I'm happy to yield.
Can we make is there a way to justify the 190 in New Smyrna versus the 195 in Dothan?
Great question. Cost of living type stuff, is that the question?
State withholding.
State withholding. Mr. Hartman.
So to Heather's point, October 1, he would get the 3% anyway, so he would be at 195. So if we start him at 195 now and
Be at
just,
198.
he wouldn't be eligible for any increases October 1.
We've actually done that with other department heads that we've brought in. We've negotiated their salary a little higher to start, put it in their offer letter that they did not get the upcoming general wage increase that the rest of the non-bargaining employees might receive. Or we've started them a little bit lower and then done an option also at 6 months with a
Performance
evaluation.
evaluation. I think that's a great call. 6 months, it may even be longer than we want, but gives them time to do stuff. I think with a salary negotiation, I love that ad of a salary negotiation conversation at the 6 month period. That would give me great comfort to start at the 190.
I agree, the 190, because he's not going to be paying state withholding here. That's a huge increase from what he's making in Alabama.
Anybody have different thoughts than that? You heard
And
two of
then
us. Okay.
Run with it.
I
At
see three
6
of us.
months,
Okay,
we'll
so 190 is the number, Kevin, 190. 6 months evaluation to include a salary conversation.
And you have the latitude. I mean, you want to,
Sure.
you think about it 3 months. I mean, the
Sure.
point is, I think this document is good for you to start going in.
Okay. Any other input or conversation? We like the document with the stuff we've talked about tonight, and I think we've captured that. You got it, Heather?
Yeah.
I'll work with Carrie to make the adjustments as we've discussed, and then we'll follow up and get with Kevin first thing tomorrow so we can get him started in the effort. Mayor, I would just say stay tuned. We'll at least walk through the document and get his initial reaction, and then we'll regroup with you and the team to figure out what adjustments may be made or what counter proposals may be made from there.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Mr. Thomas? Thank you, Doug.
Great, I appreciate it. And I think what I heard you say, Mayor, is you're generally available. You're not concerned
Yes.
about availability in the next
Yes.
week or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
so there was an idea to nominate Commissioner Hartman to be the standby. Should I not be available? Can we move forward with that or without objection?
Well, I have something to say about it. I think Randy is perfectly capable. However, the etiquette would fall to the vice mayor, and if the vice mayor didn't want to do it, then I would agree that under a motion, Randy could. So there's just an etiquette to that. That's why we have a vice mayor. So
It's highly unlikely you're going to need me, so that's fine. I'm sure you're going to finish.
however you
this
guys
soon.
want to handle it. But
How about you, Randy? How do you feel about that?
About,
Whether the vice mayor takes it or you take it?
it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I've got experience in doing public sector contracts, so.
It was Commissioner Hartman's experience with doing public sector contracts that made me think he might be a
And I'm
good
okay with
backup.
that.
Okay, great. Without objection, it's Commissioner Hartman. I'll be here. All right. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, there are no second readings. And so we're on to the first readings. If the city attorney will read the following annexation orders for properties located at 2565 Pioneer Trail and 644 Dolores Street for the first time by title only. The second readings, public hearing, and quasi-judicial will be conducted on Tuesday, the 25th of June.
Ordinance number 3624, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach annexing 1.4 plus or minus acres of property located on the north side of Pioneer Trail between Congdon Lane and Luella Street, addressed as 2565 Pioneer Trail, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 3, providing for public hearing, providing for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be June 25th, 2024. Ordinance number 3724, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of 1.4 plus or minus acres of land located on the north side of Pioneer Trail between Congdon Lane and Luella Street, addressed as 2565 Pioneer Trail, from Volusia County urban low intensity to city low density residential, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be June 25th, 2024. Ordinance number 3824, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning 1.4 plus or minus acres of property located on the north side of Pioneer Trail between Congdon Lane and Luella Street from Volusia County A3A Transitional Agriculture Airport Overlay to City A3A Transitional Agriculture Airport Overlay Zoning District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be June 25th, 2024. Ordinance number 3924, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach annexing 0.56 acres of property located on the west side of Dolores Street, north of Page Avenue, addressed as 644 Dolores Street, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 4, providing for public hearing, providing for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be June 25th, 2024. Ordinance number 4024, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of 0.56 plus or minus acres of property located on the west side of Dolores Street, north of Page Avenue, addressed as 644 Dolores Street, from Volusia County urban medium intensity to city medium density residential, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be June 25th, 2024. Ordinance number 4124, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning 0.56 plus or minus acres of property located on the west side of Dolores Street, north of Page Avenue, from Volusia County R4A Urban Single Family Residential Airport Overlay to City R2A Single Family Residential Airport Overlay Zoning District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be June 25th, 2024.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. We have no boards or commissions to speak of, and so we're on to mayor and commission reports. Vice Mayor, please.
Sure. This week we had our RFP audit meetings, and one of our findings we had James Moore was the only one submitted for our internal auditors, and so it was unanimous that we put that back out for bid. So our audit team from the Utilities Commission, Bridget, Janet, and myself all voted to not accept just one. That's not enough, and so we're trying to get more people to put bids in so it's a competitive market. So our audit meetings all got postponed and delayed because that's back out to bid. Nothing wrong with James Moore, we just need some competition. I just want to thank staff and the citizens. We had two thanking us, but what a great turnout for everybody to take their Friday and Saturday night, or Friday and Saturday all day, and to help with that selection. And And I want to thank Doug too, because he did a really great job getting us 4 good candidates. So I know that we all put our heart in it, and we weren't in deliberations that long, and we got a vote, and I'm excited to move forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Concur. Commissioner McGurk.
Yeah, I want to echo exactly what Vice Mayor said. The turnout of the community was fantastic. The attitude of the community that turned out was fantastic. Generally engaging, very optimistic, and very well. Everything was very well received. So I thought that was just that was the best thing that happened out of this whole manager search, was a community that came together and was very positive about it. Vice Mayor, you said Utilities Commission?
Ephraim's on our audit committee.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Ephraim is on our audit committee.
Oh, okay. I just didn't, okay, so it was the Utilities Commission.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Ephraim.
Good, yeah.
So Ephraim, Bridget from Edgewater, myself, and Janet, staff. So we're all 4 on this audit committee, and it is great for me to be on that because I'm learning so much. And I'm also seeing opportunities that we can, as a commission board, look for ways to get more competition on our RFPs. I think
Was it
it's
for the
necessary.
Utilities Commission or for the city, the audit?
You guys voted me for this board.
Okay, no, it
It's
sounded
for
like you
us.
said for the Utilities Commission. I just
No,
needed that clarification.
Yes,
Because I thought it was for the
we
city.
unanimously voted to put it back out to bid.
Okay.
So.
All right.
So everything's going to get delayed. Now our meetings are all in July. We have 3 or 4, but I'm able to do it by Zoom, so
All right, well, thank you for your service on that.
Thank
Let
you.
us know how it goes.
I
Thank you,
will.
Mayor. I'm done.
I'll keep you guys
Sir.
informed.
Commissioner Martin.
I don't want to be redundant. I said simply, staff is to be commended on the city manager meetings last Friday and Saturday. So many gave up their Friday evening and Saturday. Their input was helpful. I was thrilled to get feedback from staff. And being able to see candidates in a variety of situations was invaluable to me. I look forward to working with Kevin and would like to thank staff for all their hard work.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Hartman.
I agree with everything that's been said. When this whole process started, I was a little skeptical. And as we went through the whole process, it was amazing how things were starting to work out. And I think a large part of that was due to the staff efforts. So certainly thank you to all of you who participated in that. It was certainly appreciated.
Thank you, sir. Never been so proud of our city and staff as I was this past week when we hosted 4 potentials. Any of them could have been sitting on this dais. I appreciate the city clerk's email to the entire staff and to us, citing by name all the folks who went above and beyond. I was certainly pleased with of how we squired around and showed them our city with a host, senior member of our staff. That really went a long way. And the comments by each of the candidates about, wow, I would be lucky to be in your city. So you could tell that we really threw out the red carpet and was just delighted with that. So City Clerk, thanks for summarizing all of our thoughts. The turnout Friday night was a gamble, and it was the right thing, and our crowd did turn out. The staff contribution to that was exceptional. Going forward, we have a couple of meetings. We've got one Thursday night. We're going to do that. That's has 2 semi-non-contentious issues, and so we'll meet back in here at 5 p.m. And then I think Saturday, June 15th is the Pettis Park event for Juneteenth. The Vice Mayor will be representing me. I'm sure everybody is welcome there. I will not be able to attend that. And then The next is that Thursday commission workshop on Thursday, June 20th. So the one I want to focus on is the 23rd, which is the setting of the millage. We have a precedent where my predecessor was Zoom called in, and without objection, the vice mayor will not be in town. I would like to offer her the opportunity to be on a Zoom call when we consider that millage. Is there an objection to that? Okay, without objection. Very good. And now on to senior staff officer reports. City Clerk.
Just real quick, I found out yesterday that Tillman Arietti, who served as a member on the Youth Council Task Force in 2022, was interested in becoming an intern with the city to learn more about municipal government. And so I would love it if you work with the clerk's office and work, that schedule out to try to find out what his interests are in the city, work with some of the directors. Just wanted your approval on that.
Without objection. Excellent. I think we have 3 now. I think there are 3 interns that are coming for the summer in one department or another. So that's great. Thank you, Kelly. Anything else?
I won't be here at the next meeting. I'll be at the Clerks Academy. So Sharon will be clerking the meeting
Very good.
on the 25th. Thank you.
Awesome. Madam City Attorney.
Last week, we received 2 new lawsuits. One's an appeal regarding the riparian rights in the Armstrong case. The other is a quiet title. I will be working on our 6-month litigation update. Hopefully get that to you prior to June 30th.
Will you also update the public on Form 6 with what the update is?
Yes, the ruling, plaintiffs filed for a temporary injunction to prevent the filing of Form 6, the requirement to do so on the elected officials. Yesterday, the court ruled on the temporary injunction, granting it, citing probability of that the plaintiffs would prevail. They cited it as a First Amendment issue, that the state hasn't proven that this is the least restrictive means to accomplish their goals, and the goals is to make sure that public officials aren't, voting on things that are a conflict of interest. So that they did rule that it applies statewide, so whether you are a named plaintiff or not, it would apply to you, and it applies to candidates as well. And so there were some instructions sent out from the clerk's general counsel regarding Form 1 and how to file that.
Awesome, and thank you for your work on that. Appreciate that. Mr. Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. One item of clarification from public comments. The traffic consultant is providing monthly reports. We have monthly meetings with that consultant to get status updates, so they are fulfilling their terms of the contract.
Thanks for the clarity. Appreciate that. Without any other business, yes, ma'am.
Can I add on to what the city attorney was just saying?
Of course.
Form 1s are all you need right now. You still have to file those online with their electronic system. Just wanted to make sure that you knew that. And then
Must
we just
file
need a copy.
online if you're an incumbent, right?
By July 1st.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Unless
Actually,
you're a
if you're an
candidate.
incumbent running, you got to file by Friday.
Friday
Yeah.
at noon.
Yeah, good enough. Okay. We're adjourned.